And good morning, and welcome to this week's episode of Positive Vibes, making positivity and gratitude louder in a podcast world. And this morning, as my guest, I have my good friend Jose, who's here at the radio station with me, and he actually is a host of his own show, the 1 Hour Show, here at the studio.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing phenomenal. Good to see you this morning, Jose.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I just want to say, it's when you work at the station here and you host people and you do shows, you get into that mode. But I've never been invited as a guest, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, right on.
I'm having a hard time hearing myself, so I don't know if I'm being heard. Anyways, but you're right. It's a beautiful morning here in Tacoma, and I'm excited about. I'm excited to be in your show. I'm really excited.
Right on. Well, thank you. And it's definitely a beautiful. Definitely a beautiful morning here in Tacoma. I was out this morning, and I was telling you, I got here way too early for the sunrise, being with the time change, and but at any rate, an hour later, when the sunrise did happen, I got out there and got some awesome shots, just phenomenal shots.
I follow you, so I know some of the shots you do, and I was excited to see some of those this morning.
Right on. Yeah, it was just amazing. I didn't know that I'd get those shots this morning. I was just hoping for a little bit of sunrise.
I totally understand because I guess I am the host, the guest, so I could talk about me. One of the things that, as you know, I do like a little spiritual work. And I've been doing spiritual work for a few years since my life really changed. And but part of that, I also needed a creative side. I was creative for many years of my life. I wanted to be like a graphic designer. I was a really good graphic designer, but life happens, and we got busy, and I ended up in a big corporation. I worked for Boeing for many years, and it's just kind of funny how that side of you disappears if you get busy in life. But lately, I've been really, really liking photography. I don't have like the equipment that I want yet, but I've been using a lot like my phone and filters and things like that. And it's amazing what you could do with a phone nowadays.
Yeah, totally.
And I've done really good. Not to pat myself on the back, but I think I've taken a few shots that I'm really proud of.
Yeah, it's like that's me. I get out there and I take some shots, and sometimes it's like, I wish that could have been better. But then I get out there sometimes and it's like, wow, I can actually take a picture that good with my phone.
Yeah, exactly. So, but but like I was saying, it's a lot of it. Like I went out last night to Titlow Park. That's where I go a lot. That's one of my place to go. And it was really dark, and I had a great time though. Anyways, so how's it going with you? I'm turning around. It's hard for me to not be a host.
Yeah.
Right here, I'm like,
Yeah, no, it's going phenomenal. It's going great. I can't complain at all. It's like, life is phenomenal.
Yeah. I follow you, so I know you do a lot of running in the mornings.
Yeah.
And you're inspiring me. Actually, one of the things that happened to me this week, I got a little older. I had a birthday this week.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, and I've been celebrating a little. Usually I don't celebrate as much, but lately I've been celebrating. But one of the things that happened to me was I finally got to see a doctor. I'm not a doctor kind of person. I mean, I care about my health, but I'm not the first one to run to a doctor if something happens. But this time I thought, you know what? I'm reaching an age where I should go, and one of the things that came out of it is that I do really need to exercise. I mean, so, and I've never been a runner. I've never been a runner. I jog a little bit, but not like a run or, a lot of fat. I do a lot of walking. Now that's one good thing. I am a walker.
Yeah.
So, but I watch people. I have a few good friends who are totally runners, and you're one of them.
Right on. Yeah, I'm actually not a big fan of going to the doctor either, and well, of course, they're very good, and in some instances, totally necessary. Like when I was 11, fell out of the tree 40 feet and landed in a coma.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, yes, doctors are necessary.
Yeah.
But it's like, daily life. I mean, even like we were talking just before the show here a week or two ago when I tripped and fell and fell on my
I don't want to bring
face.
that up. I'll let you bring that up.
Yeah, and bruised my rib. It's like I knew immediately. The first thought through my mind is, "Oh, great, what just happened?" And then I'm like, "Oh well, if I did go in, they would just say, take it easy. Not much they can do for a bruised rib." So which I had that confirmed by one of my coworkers at the restaurant there at Trapper Sushi. He's a volunteer firefighter, and he totally agreed with me. There's nothing they can really do, so just take it easy. And here I was working with it.
I hate to say it, but I did see you fall because you filmed it. You're good at filming, and that's a good thing. That's one thing I like about you too. It's like you film everything. So you remind me of somebody. I don't know who, but anyways, I saw the fall and I felt bad. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I thought you broke your phone for a second. So
what you're talking about, the fall that I recorded.
Yeah,
that was the second one.
Oh,
that was a couple days or a week later. And it was, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, that was exactly 1 week later.
Oh.
And I had already bruised my rib. And then I'm running up these concrete stairs by McMenamins, and tripped and fell toward the top.
So let me give you some advice. Don't be filming as you're running upstairs. Because I've done it myself.
No, I've since that time when I was filming and tripped on the stairs, I've made that rule: no more filming running upstairs.
There you go.
Or running downstairs. That would suck.
No, but I really want to thank you for inviting me. It's when you invited me. Like I said, when I've been inviting people to come to the station, and I'm really proud of the station. I believe that this the station it has a very beautiful message for Hispanic people, but there's also some of us who do our shows in English. Mine's in Spanglish. As you know, the name of my show is the Juan Hour Show, because I was trying to make it sound more like a 60-minute things in Spanish, but just for Tacoma. And it's turning out pretty good. I'm really proud of it. The show is growing. We're all learning. I'm proud that Chris works with us, and I've had pretty good guests. Lately I do, with the pandemic, things kind of slowed up, at the beginning I put a lot more effort where I had a little bit more time, but seems like I've been doing a lot of work lately. Yeah. I've been putting a lot of work. And talking about restaurant, you said you work at Trapper Sushi up in Bunny Lake. Yeah. So I kind of have a couple of access to some restaurants that I run and manage, and they're called Jubilee Hamburgers. And we had one in Bonnie Lake on 214 and 410.
Yeah, I remember that.
But they're building a big old car wash there now. Like they need another car wash in Bonnie Lake. But we ended up moving over to the Eagles in Buckley.
Oh,
it's just so as soon as you come in right into Buckley's to the left, the Eagles, you'll see the trailer there. And I'm not going to promote it. I'm just saying that's where I'm going to be. But it's a really good location. I really got. That town really is treating us nice. A lot of people supporting it, business-wise. It's a lot of work, because we have to run up there everyday supplies and everything. And but But I'm proud of the operation. We have several locations, and then we have a restaurant here in Tacoma.
Huh.
So, and a couple of coffee shops we manage. So it keeps me busy. I'm busy during the week, and then trying to find people to, and I think that's the hardest part for me and you, trying to find somebody who is willing or work with you or, make a difference. Or, I mean, there's a lot of heroes out there. I call them my heroes, my guests,
Yeah.
because we're showing them off, to the community. But yeah, no, I was happy when you invited me.
Right on. Well, I'm happy to have you on the show. And that brings me to a question I had that I
Okay.
wrote down here. I didn't write down many questions, only a
It's
couple,
okay.
but
Don't worry. I can fill the hour.
oh, I know you can. We're used to that. But yeah, well, first you answered my question.
Okay.
I was going to ask you what you did other than radio, and
That I kind of mentioned the food side of it, but I work for an individual who has several type of businesses, and I do a lot of the business management kind of thing,
okay,
or help out, or I'm hopefully maybe one day I'll start my own. It's been a great school. A little bit of history about me, if you want to know. I worked for big corporations for a long time. I worked for the company Boeing for many years. I worked for a company like Adobe support, and I worked for and within Boeing, I worked for a couple other companies because some of the jobs got subbed out. Like I worked for Dell, like Dell company. I did work at my last few years at Boeing. I worked in experimental flight, where I would travel all over the country in airplanes who are not considered planes yet. That's why they're called experimental.
yeah.
So every day I would have to send my life away. But that was fun. Those were good years. And then a few years ago, my life changed. I had what they call a life burnout, I think. I think that's what we call it. And I just kind of didn't know where to go from there. It was like I hit a certain age in my life, just kind of I mean, I hate to say it, people go through it. It started rattling apart, and I also was trying to find myself again because there's a lot of us around, or late 40s, where they kind of go through like a life burnout, and then you start questioning your existence or what am I going to do, and I went through that, So there was a lot of change really rapidly, and I had to find myself again, and then, like I said, this business thing came up. But one of the things that I started doing, and I wanted to, because your show is good vibes, is I really got into spirituality.
Right.
I kind of went to the areas where I normally don't go. When people are comfortable in life, they got a routine, they work hard, they're trying to get goal-wise somewhere. But a lot of things, like I was saying earlier about like your arts or your creativeness, or we may be religious at a church, but we're not as spiritual as we want to because we're kind of just going through the process. And I really relied on that. I really relied on finding my spirituality. So
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've found as a kid and in my teens. Going to church was a good thing. I knew it was a good thing, and I knew it was like a way or the way or whatever to connect with a higher power, God as you understand him.
Yeah.
And but it's like I was going through the motions,
exactly.
and I've always had this phenomenal memory, and it's like I'd start going to some youth group at a church, and they'd say, okay, memorize 23rd or 23rd Psalm or as much of it as you can. And like everyone else would be like struggling with it, and I'd have it done the first day or whatever. And it's like there was one point at when I was drinking and drugging in my teens and hit my rock bottom.
Yeah.
And while I was there at my rock bottom, I was without going into details, I
Yeah,
was sort of confined for a little bit, and
Oh yeah.
I read the entirety of the King James version of the Holy Bible. Like, I know I read it once, maybe more, but anyway, I something in there. Just I had this spiritual awakening,
Exactly.
and everything changed.
And when you say spiritual awakening, you're not saying that, in other words, when my translation to spirituality is that religion is a method. It's kind of like meditating, right? It's like, to me, religion is something that you follow to put you to a level of spirituality. Because if you notice, if you go to a church, everybody prays, everybody gets into their knees, everybody, maybe not every religion, but everybody has kind of have they talk to the higher power. But one of the things I discovered, and I'm not saying it's bad at religion. I mean, I still go to church when I can. And,
Oh yeah.
And I still, I was born this way, and I'll always be this way. But what I was saying is that I was relying too much on knowing scripture. I was relying too much on feeling a certain way at a certain Sunday. But a good friend of mine was traveling in Europe, and I had gone through a major life change. Everything, my living style, everything changed.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I did is as a kind of a fun thing, but yet I believed in it. I believe in the polar bear plunge. Every January 1st, you got to jump into cold water.
Yeah.
And give you a heart attack, wake you up. Good way to welcome the year. But she saw that I did that online because I post everything too, as you know, I have a public life. So I thought, you know what? Why not? I posted it. And she was traveling at that time. And she was in somewhere in North Europe, where one of the things that she's learning it's a method of breathing for people who do get in the really icy waters. But when she got back in town, she was like, "Hey, you like the cold water?" And we live in the Puget Sound, and I'm learning this method, and you mentioned it's good luck. And so we ended up. At first, we didn't know where we were going with this. But we started going to swim in the Puget Sound. We found a spot where we feel safe. But we didn't just do it about getting in the water. If it was just that, then you just go jump at the end of the pier.
Yeah.
But we integrated it with spirituality. We decided to create a protocol. We have a lot of people, friendships who are like Puyallup tribe. Also on the Latino side, Aztec kind of things. People who actually follow, they say they follow a certain way of celebrating, spirituality. So we had decided to integrate that. So I started to go and swimming in the cold water. Just seems like every few weeks we would go in there a couple of weeks. And another thing is when you go out in the woods, when you're in the middle of nature and you actually become spiritual in nature. I recommend anybody who picks up a Bible and goes to a church, goes through a door to feel like you have to be spiritual, go try it in the woods. Go in the middle of the woods and just sit on a stump and be spiritual, not religious. Try to connect with your higher power. And to me, that made a big difference because at the time, like I said, my life had rattled apart and I was trying to figure out what to do then I also, there was a couple of family members that are close to me that because of that falling apart, we weren't communicating and it was hard, it's hard to miss someone like that. But the fact that we started going to the cold water, sorry, I talked too much.
Oh, no, that's okay.
The fact that we started going to the cold water twice a week. And one of the things that we did, my friend, what we started doing is creating portals. In other words, people think of altar, like if you go to a church, they think of an altar like a place to pray to or at. But what we did is I happen to have a garden. I also do community garden, and I grew lots of like sunflowers and flowers, and instead of those flowers just to kind of go to waste, we would take them by the water, and we create not say we call them portals, but it's not like a portal where you get in and you go to another space. But it also, what it does is it represents like a visual to something. You're not praying to the portal, but it's like a place where you allow yourself to open up. And we did it usually right up at the sun. One of the things that I learned from my friend is when we were going where the sunset was coming. And when the sunset comes, it makes a nice white line from the sun across the water.
Yeah.
And, that was like a pathway. So we always prayed towards the pathway. So we created all that. I'm proud of us, because we're going. As a matter of fact, last night was, we haven't done it in a little while because of the pandemic. We respect that. The person that I go with, she works in a very public thing, kind of. She's can't really be around a lot of possibilities of COVID.
Yeah.
So, and then myself, working with foods, just kind of. But last night we started to look into starting again for this year. So I'm excited. Spring's coming up, and but spirituality wise, I recommend whoever's listening to your show to maybe if you are religion or spiritual, go do it in the woods. Go to the woods. Any park where maybe not too many people, try to find some quietness. But man, it is amazing how you connect to nature, to your higher power.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. I'm sure, I'm almost positive you've seen my videos here recently that I've been shooting when I'm running the trails at Point Defiance. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. What you're talking about, finding your higher power out in the woods. It's like I've been thinking about that hardcore lately, running the trails out there in Point Defiance, because it's like you're in the middle of the forest.
You're in the middle of the forest.
And you see all the little animals and all the birds flying in the air. And
nature talks to you. You think, oh, I'm just seeing a bird. But if you think about it, that bird, if you didn't see it yourself, it's just going along doing its own life and it's not being recognized. But I believe that if you really pay attention, nature talks to you. I'm not saying you necessarily have to be someone that has to be very spiritual, because I'm not sitting here to claim that I'm very spiritual, but I'm also saying that experiencing it in that way, it helps you focus. If you ever have any major problems in life too, I know I go to therapy, but also go spend time in the woods. It's amazing how being away from things and being surrounded by trees and flowers and water, it's mainly it's therapeutic for the soul.
yeah,
That's the way nature talks to you.
yeah, definitely. It just sometimes I find if I go hiking or if I'm out there running. Even if I'm in the middle of a real fast run, I stop at a point there in the woods and step off the trail into a nice open area, set up my phone, and of course I pause my run so my timer's not going. But, I step off the trail and just set up my phone and look around and take it all in, while I'm setting up for my selfie shot, and then I set up my phone and take a selfie, and then
it's amazing how our phones took over our lives because we want to share our experience, and that's the way to do it. But another thing that I try to do, I was telling you, I was trying to be creative, and I do take my phone down there when I'm creative, but I only use it when I want to record like a picture or something. But usually I try to put it away.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, I don't want it to become about that. That's the thing is. And you're right. I mean, you have to pause everything but that's a good example of if you, especially right now, a lot of us are at home because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are frustrated. It's been a year. Actually, this last week I think was a year ago when things started kind of getting ugly about getting being inside and everything. So it's been a good year. It's been a good learning year for me about social distancing and taking care of ourselves. But if you can make it to the woods and you're by yourself, you don't need to have, it just kind of frees you up. So yes, you can sit at home and take care of yourself, but yeah, I recommend finding, like I said, find a spot where you can, just be yourself,
Yeah.
and allow yourself to breathe, fresh air, and look for the animals, and focus on not necessarily like chanting or anything, but focus on your thoughts when you're out there, because consciously you have to get yourself spiritually, in my mind. Spirituality comes from inspiration. So like a prayer, right? Or maybe a good run, or maybe a visual thing affects you. But what's the bottom line? That vision, that laugh, that thing, it gets into your soul. It gets into your heart. And that's what lifts you. You were talking about lifting you up. That's why we always, when we talk about spirits, we talk about lifting, because we're very knocked down with life. We're very under pressure, under time, underappreciated. We're working hard as human beings in our lives. But that's one of the reasons why I love spirituality, because I feel like I'm being lifted, like I'm being release of stress, and those things are good for you too. Anyways, I talk too much, so.
Oh no, no, you don't. You don't talk too much. As a matter of fact, that's why I have you on the show, so I'm not having to talk the whole time.
Thank you.
Okay, and another question I was going to ask is your show, the 1 hour show. I've caught little bits and pieces of it, and I've said, "Hey Juan," or "Hey Jose, how you doing?" But at any rate, I don't understand Spanish. So,
Yes.
and
that's okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's your show about?
Well, first of all, let's understand the show, then we can talk about what the show is. When this idea for this show came up, actually, it came out a few years before my life fell apart, and I had an idea of doing a show, and I was asked to do it in a visual form, television style. But then, of course, my life fell apart, so I had to put it to the side. But thank God, and I think it was meant to be. But one of the things that I noticed is that we do have a large Hispanic community, and we do have a large people who are involved in town. And I was kind of wanted to put it together, and at first I didn't know how, but I noticed that in our station, even though, like I say, you do your show in English, and there's a lot of English shows in it, it's supposed to be mainly in Spanish. Yeah. So this station to me is it's a beautiful project that our friend Christian started, manage it. And I was very proud that he asked me to be in it. But I was just kind of thinking, instead of just kind of limited to one type of audience, Hispanic, Latino only, or, English. I thought, why not merge? A lot of people kind of, even though they don't speak Spanish, they don't know enough. Or since I speak both languages, I can translate. So I decided to come up with the idea of Spanglish Community Radio. And Spanglish Community Radio, that's the point. It's like saying, the way I see it is like my show hopefully is seen by someone who may not know English, or someone like you who may not know Spanish. Yeah. And the subjects are either or. And I happen to be lucky. I'm not bragging, but I know a lot of people in town. So I felt like I could show Tacoma in that aspect. Like I could say Tacoma is a beautiful city in itself, but there's a lot of people who may not speak our language, who may just gotten here, or people who there's a lot of people who've been here many years, but they don't learn the language because they're used to their native language. And even though there's a lot of Hispanic things out there in the community, I think we need a show that is not biased on the language, is biased on what it teaches. So I wanted to teach Tacoma to both people. And I've been lucky. I may turn it around on you, and you might end up in my show. So the reason I'm going to give the credit in the air. It was not, the idea of the name was not my idea. When I was trying to work on the visual side of things a long time ago, when I got offered, it was my oldest son came up with that name. She's like, 'cause I said, you know what I really want? I want something like Sesame Street meets 60 Minutes, And she was all like, and I go, well, she goes, 60 Minutes, it's an hour, and your name is Juan. Why don't we call it the Juan Hour? And I was like, oh, brilliant. So I figured that's going to be kind of my brand now.
Yeah.
So that's how we came up with the 1 hour show.
Right on, right on. I know I love that. I love that name. It's so fitting because it's a 1 hour show.
It's
and
a
you're
1 hour
Juan.
show, and I'm in it, and hopefully we could put this community in on a pedestal where people can feel like, hey, I know that guy, because I get around town quite a bit, and hopefully the people that I feature are someone who's like interesting and or making a difference, or so when people see him on the street, or they see him, or they go to the place where I'm promoting, they say, hey, I saw you at the 1 hour show,
Right on, right on. Yeah, wow. That thought just went right out the window.
Okay. It's early. I mean, this hour change. I don't know. Lately I've been getting a lot of I don't know what it is, but I've been waking up like at 3 a.m. every morning, no matter what. Even if I go to bed early or late, sometimes I stay late thinking, well, I'll sleep through it. Or sometimes I go to bed early but like 2:30, 3 a.m, I've been waking up for like an hour, 2 hours every night. And then I go back to sleep. But last night I just did go back to sleep. But then for a minute I thought, oh, I could just sleep for a little, and I got an extra hour. And I realized, wait a minute, I don't. We just changed the hours. So if you're listening, you may be listening a little bit like an hour ahead. So, because we lost an hour last night.
Yeah. I'm like that too. I wake up at the butt crack of dawn every day, and it's like, for a while there, this was years ago, I was working in Seattle for a while and living down in Bonnie Lake, and having to make that commute every morning. I figured, okay, I'll make it easy on myself and beat rush hour. I'll just wake up a little earlier. And so I was out of the house at like 4:30, and my best time ever was when I was working out of a warehouse up in Everett, making it up to the warehouse in North Everett. After I had stopped off at Starbucks, gotten my coffee, put sugar in it, stirred it and all that, went to the warehouse, I was there in 57 minutes.
Wow. You know what? I'm there with you, because I usually, like I said, I was working for Boyne and I was in IT. So it's not like I had one location. So my job a lot of times required to go to different. So I've done that commute, but mine was from Tacoma to Everett. So I understand. I know. And I had another little car that I just bought it for that commute. And I would spend 4 hours on that road in the morning and at nighttime. So I know the commute to Everett. I used to have to go to Seattle or I-90 over there on Bellevue, and we had Long Acres. So we had a lot of the companies that were that I supported all over through the Sound. And so believe me, I know that commute. And then lately, like I said, I've been Bonnie Lake up there, and I kind of have a place up there, like a room to stay up there. So I know 410 quite well, especially when we had those fires last year. And we had to commute all the way around the.
I had to.
You got to go
take the jogs.
So that's one of the things that I don't like about Bonnie Lake, is like there's one way in and one way out, or pretty much, if you want.
One way in.
Okay. But no, I believe me, I understand. It's like, those commutes, but well, good. I'm glad you're up there now. You're working up there. You don't have to commute as much, huh?
Right. I was married, and we were buying a house there in Bonnie Lake, and then got divorced, and we sold the house, and after a couple of years I ended up living here in Tacoma, but I'm still working up there at Bonnie Lake.
I know, it's the same way with me too. I'm now here in Tacoma. I'm here, actually, matter of fact, I'm here on the hilltop now. I used to be the last 25 years over the east side. And talking about that, I really got involved with the city. Tacoma is a beautiful city. It's the third largest city here, and the Puget Sound area, and basically Tacoma to me, it reminds me of the old Seattle. I don't know if you grew up in the Seattle part or not, but Seattle used to be this way where you could walk around and meet people or feel like there's a difference. I haven't been to Seattle in 6 months to a year now. But Tacoma, it's a town that is big enough to feel like a big town, but small enough it feels like you know everybody.
Yeah.
Since you're interviewing me, I'm gonna kind of say a little bit of things about myself. And one of the things that I also got into, I got involved a lot in politics in the city. I One of the biggest things I feel I've done is I fought petrofuels at the port.
Oh,
I got involved with that, and that's something that I've been working with a lot. Right now I'm working with an organization called 350 Tacoma, which I recently just had on my show. I didn't have them for the whole year. But 2015, I was in a neighborhood advisory board on the east side, and an advisory board, and it was announced that they were going to build a methanol plant. They would take like 10,000 gallons of water an hour, and they were talking about 2.5 megawatts of power, which is equal to the city of Tacoma, and it was built within the city limits, and it kind of became our. And I say our because there's a lot of people here in Tacoma who are very environmental. You know, they want to protect our environment here. You know, we are very lucky as humans to be living in the Puget Sound, because sound is just the sound is just amazing. Our bay here, you know, in Tacoma, is one of the most beautiful bays in the world, but we do have a port at Tacoma. We have the second largest here in Tacoma. We have, you know, because there's a Seattle port and a Tacoma port, but I think it's like the biggest one in the. And there's only 3 major big ones in the West Coast, and so it was just a very, as a matter of fact, I was attending one of my meetings as advisory board member, and somebody raised their hand and said, "Hey, have you heard about this company?" And I was like shocked that you know, I mean, at first I thought it was even a joke. I thought like, you know, because a company that has to eat those kind of resources and create methanol. You know, build in Tacoma, it didn't make sense. And at the time, I had to do a lot of learning, like really learning really fast. And I took the time to learn. But one of the things that happened, like I said, at that time, my life kind of went through a burnout, and I was kind of trying to discover what I was going to do next. And I decided to. I've always been a community person, and I decided to join the advisory board and try to make a difference in my local community. I did a lot of volunteering on the east side of Tacoma, but like, again, it was like a nightmare. It's like that. I remember that night. When I discovered the idea they were going to make that factory. I remember I wasn't able to sleep. I was scared that because I have heard about the liquefaction of natural gas. And I know the fracking involved, and I knew about it's a lot more explosive, but I couldn't believe that it was going to be created. You know, the pollution, and then nothing against Asian people, but it was a China factory with a company bought locally, so I could use it like a mask. You know, and the outcome of all this production was mainly to support China. And I was, you know, and like I said, it had nothing to do with that. It was more about us as a country producing this liquefaction with fracking, and we don't even get the benefit. It goes to another country. And then it became like a war about, oh, well, we need jobs in Tacoma. And I believe everybody should have a livable wage job in Tacoma, but at what cost? You know, one of the things that I live by as a person is that I believe that you should live by that everything you do is going to affect 7 generations, you know, and that's kind of something that I've always, before this battle, that I've always believed, you know, leave it. One of the things that I try to teach my children was leave it better than you found it, you know, wherever you go, leave it better than you found it, you know. And, but that battle became a big part of my life, you know. It consumed me. I ended up taking a whole year off. to every day find a fact or find a ruling or talking. I live literally at the city council talking to people about trying to change their minds. And we had the biggest political movement in Tacoma because of that action. What they were trying to do is kind of like rush it, like politically rush it, like, oh, put it under the carpet, like, oh, we let people know, but they only put like a little in the newspaper, they put like a little article, and they're required to let people know, but they don't, not how they let. Yeah. Also, you're supposed to. They created what they call like EIS, basically a spec that people can make comments, and that's how it works in the city. If any company comes to the city, they have to, if they're making a big enough wave, they have to have an EIS study. And people were supposed to make comments. Well, they only rented out like a high school gym.
Oh,
they expected only maybe 100, 200 people to show up. But way back in 2015, where we filled up the whole convention center with 2,000 people.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Holy
and so it was quite the battle. It's quite the battle with the city. And there was a lot of political aspect, but there was a lot of environmental aspect, like on the pollution side if this thing ever got built.
Yeah.
And what happened was a group of people, grassroots, because no one was paying us. It's just that we believed it should not exist. We put up we created a group, and I say we because I was part of the first 8 core people, and basically we created a movement, from the grassroots down. We created a movement about stopping this thing, and we were afraid. And when you deal with a country like China, we were afraid we were going to get targeted, and a lot of it was hush hush, But we also we made enough noise where the issue in itself became a front runner issue for the city, where people were talking about it. It was people's minds. Companies were actually taking the time to notice what we were saying. So like we almost had a say so. In the end, the company claimed that it was because of pollution that they couldn't build. Isn't that funny? Ironically, they're like, oh, we're leaving because of pollution, when we were afraid they were going to be one of the biggest polluters in the sound.
Yeah.
They kind of walked away because, we proved there's a couple of people there who are major scientists, that we able to come to our part. And we have a lady who she's a national environmentalist, and she put her name out. She won a MacArthur Award, which is one of the top, environment. So we had the people power, we had the facts, and they left. But also while we were doing that, there was another battle brewing with liquefaction of natural gas. And right now we do have that in the port. And unfortunately, it's thought of as a bridge gap kind of a fuel. And it's not, and I don't want to be hypocritical. I mean, I drive a car, I buy things made out of plastic. And I'm not saying it's ever going to be totally fuel free right away, at least probably in my lifetime. But I'm hoping the next generations learn from the mistakes we made. Right now it's all about profits and jobs and, making it big, and then we're burning fuel. But I have a feeling that as a society, we could one day rely on, I say, green jobs or not, like, in other words, there's so many technology that we still is going to need to be creative, where it doesn't rely on burning CO2, fossil fuels, and I want Tacoma to have jobs. So anyway, like I said, it just kind of snowball. So I met through that process, I met a lot of people in this town, because you literally had to knock on everybody's door to kind of get that knowledge out, because our job was not to stop it. Our job was to teach people, like, let people make a decision here. Yeah. Anyways, and so it was a big part of my life,
Right on. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had, going way back, I had another question.
Okay.
going way back on your Facebook profile,
Oh, okay.
I noticed on there that it says you attended Green River Community College.
Yes, I did.
And I was just wondering, what did you study?
Well, you got to remember, I'm a little older. As a matter of fact, this year I'm 1 more year older. But I remember when I started way back in computing, that's when we have like the 8088s and things were coming in. And I was a very interested guy in computing. But I've always, like I said, leaned to the creative side.
Yeah.
I go all the way back where the only way you can make drawings was a pixel at a time. So when the world of multimedia and CDs were coming, and graphics were coming, I was all in. I was all in. I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to. I imagined myself, owning a graphic companies and what we see today. A lot of us are this telephone is like 20 more times powerful than the best computer I ever had.
Trust me. I remember working on when I was in 2nd through 5th grade up at View Ridge Elementary in Everett.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and we lived up there. Yeah, trust me. I remember playing Oregon Trail on the Apple IIe's.
Apple IIe's. I remember I started with a Commodore 64. So anyways, life happened. I was working. I was doing a lot of warehouse things and being young. And I worked for my dad, did a lot of traveling, but I ended up moving back to the Puget Sound and I met a beautiful woman. And it was like time to settle down and make a life and think of a career. And I wanted to get into computers. And so Green River at the time was way ahead of his time by creating a multimedia program. And they teach you the latest in graphics. At the time, Adobe Photoshop was literally in version 3 or 2 kind of thing. The computers were all Apple. We were all forced to buy Apple computers through the school, which was a big mistake. But anyways, so when the opportunity came to Green River and they were offering that, I jumped all over it. I was like, I'm gonna be. Back then, the internet still had the old modems. Remember that?
Yeah.
You wait for it to talk. It was so slow. So the big thing was the CDs. The CD readers and the old, like I said, old versions of all these graphic, and I fell in love with that. I remember dreaming that I was going to own a multimedia company. That was the term back then, multimedia, before the internet. And it was all going to be CD, Who could imagine that your telephone has, right now 20 times more than any CD you could ever create. But long story short, I'm an old guy. This is way back in was it like late 80s, early 90s, and that's one thing about me that I wish I would have done a lot more formal studying like UW and a degree and all that. But I just happened to, have the natural intelligence, not to brag about myself, and computing. And I was able to work myself pretty high at Boyne. As we know, Boyne is I feel like they own the mill in town, at the time. So when I was going there, I was too busy doing the work to go to the school for it. But I ended up, like I said, at Green River, and I love the campus. At the time, I've gone back and it's really changed because when I went, it was really, it was all woods.
Yeah.
It was way, like more woods and they were just starting with their multimedia program. The biggest problem I had was that I had a big, wild imagination, but the systems couldn't keep up with the graphic cards or the memories would fail or, I'm not going to blame it, but so I got all the way towards the end, but I didn't finish it because my computer wouldn't, I had this idea in my head and it basically, died. But I love Green River. Actually, I feel and that's, like I said, that's the only my formal college I have. So, but it got me to a lot of jobs. I actually worked for Adobe for a while.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I actually got to work for Adobe and then we were having a baby, so I needed insurance. So I went to Boyne thinking that I was going to just do that for a couple of years, and work on my graphics. And I never came out of it. I ended up staying in networking and support and programming and stuff. So it was, but I do give Green River a big, I haven't gone back in a little while, but I'm excited about Green River. When I hear people that went to Green River, I feel like, hey, smile school.
Yeah, right on. I remember going to being at Green River Community College, like, this would have been late 80s, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And my mom had gone to school there and completed something, and some graduation ceremony or whatever, is from what I recall anyway. But it was like, late 80s. I was fresh out of my coma there, so all that sort
Well,
of.
you seem
like,
a lot young. I thought you were a lot younger than me, so I don't know. So,
oh
but
no,
yeah.
no, I'm not. I don't think I'm that much younger than you.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm getting toward the midlife.
Called middle. That's what I call my car. I drive a red sports car, and I call him middle, and everybody's like, "Why middle?" I go, "Well, middle age crisis."
Yeah. Actually, I'll be 46 this summer.
Wow.
So
So yeah, a little bit, but not that far behind.
yeah.
But what did you study at Green River?
Oh, I never studied at Green River.
Okay. Okay.
No,
I
actually, I was going to start studying at Green River at one point, and I was on I forget how the scenario played out, but it seems as though I know I went there for something to do with unemployment. I was on unemployment at the time, and we could get credit for going to this class at Green River.
Oh, okay.
Some reintegration into the workforce class or whatever. So I went there, and the whole thing, it seemed like rather than reintegration into the workforce, it was essentially reintegrating you into the workforce by getting you to register for their school and everything.
Yeah.
So, and I was going to do that, but it never did pan out.
No, like I said, that's kind of how I went when I went to Green River. It was more of a, retraining kind of thing. But no, the way I see it is, we all do need a little school. I mean, I know we're all talking about having major master's degrees. If the job requires it, fine. But I think the way the economics are going now, a lot more people are way more in debt for going to school.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the community colleges or a lot of the jobs now, like, plumbing or electrician and all that, those guys are making some bucks, because so that, I think it's kind of the pendulum is going the other way, where before, yes, if you had that degree and you studied and you put your time and you got in debt and would pay off. But now a lot of people go through that, and at the end, there's no jobs. Yeah. So a lot of the jobs are more in the production kind of thing. And it's a pendulum. I'm old enough to see it a couple of times in my life. But what I was going to say is here, no, actually, I want to thank you. I know we're kind of, I'm watching the clock, so I really wanted to thank you. It went by fast, so the 1 hour went pretty quick here.
Yeah.
So, but no, what was I going to say? I kind of lost my point of view. I'm tired because like that last hour, it's kind of weird. It's amazing what 1 hour of sleep, you would think, oh, it's just an hour, But last night, it's just like, it was one of those deals. But well, I really want to thank you for having me on the show, though. I'm really excited. It's an honor.
Yeah, it was great. It was there you go. Whoops.
There you go.
It was, I was wondering where that came from. Anyway, it was, great to have you on my show and get to hear some more of your story. Oh, and one question I had, or one thing I wanted to bring up, was that I don't know if they're, like you were saying, 350.
Yeah. Like I said, there's several. That's one thing we are lucky about. We living in Tacoma. There's several organization groups that have been established already, because we are finding petrol fuels at the port. Right now we're dealing with expansion, and there's a detention center in the port. So it's not like we're anti-port. We just have a different vision of what a lot of people that make money out of it see it. Because we are known as a industrial city, and I get it, but we're no longer just relying on them to survive either. I mean, this city has really grown. There's a lot of economical engines in this town besides just the port. Granted, that's kind of our biggest money producer, but the Port of Tacoma is really changing a lot too right now. There's a merger with Seattle. They brought bigger cranes so they can bring bigger boats.
Actually, it was my uncle Marty Blue. He was actually one of the guys that set up those new cranes.
I actually sat in the water and
welded
watched them
them
go by.
together.
Millions of pictures. So in other words, and then I really have not to brag, but I know a lot of people. I have a really good friend named Christian Eng, who was my first guest in the Juan Hour show here at this station. And she ended up making history. She got elected as a port commissioner, and she's the first female minority out of 100 years. So, as a matter of fact, I hung out with her this weekend, and so there's a lot of connection to the port. I believe the Port of Tacoma needs to make some changes, but also it's a very good economical engine for Tacoma, and I'm proud of the people. I'm proud of the port. We're just basically trying to conserve it. I didn't say anything about the tribe because right now there's a lot of conflict because it's being built in a Puyallup tribe land.
Oh, okay.
Things like that. So there's a lot of players to this game with the Port of Tacoma, but I think it's definitely a something that if you are from Tacoma or you're listening to this show, and I keep saying Tacoma, but it's regional. It affects the whole Puget Sound.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When if something was to go really bad at Tacoma, Kent, Auburn, Puyallup, anything around Tacoma, it's going to be affected because a lot of those ships bring stuff from China or other parts of the world, and they get unloaded here. I mean, if you're waiting for a new car and something happens at the port, you're not going to get your new car.
Oh yeah, I know that because my grandpa, one of my grandpas, he used to work, or he worked at the for years he worked at the port, and for the last, I don't know, several years, many years, he worked at the grain, where the grain ship, at that section or whatever, at that
Hollywood port,
part of the port. And then my uncle Matt, he works over on the other side of the port.
Yeah.
And so does my uncle Marty, and Marty's a mechanic.
So it sounds like you got a lot of involvement, and that was another reason why we kind of fought those fuels at the port, because even though they are creating jobs for people down there, a lot of their health also goes in danger.
Yeah,
breathing all those chemicals all the time, and you don't want to see your uncle die because he's breathing some chemical that they're not telling you about. But bottom line is, it's not about that. It's more about, like I say, conserving our environment, being progressive on the fact that you can build different types of jobs. It's not. Believe me, the last thing I want is one of the things that they use against you when you're an environmentalist. They're like, oh, well, you don't want jobs, right? But it has nothing to do with not wanting jobs. It's just the type of jobs and how we're going to grow as a society. Because 100 years from now, right? 100 years from now, the way we know the port may not even be here.
Yeah.
So, but bottom line, I don't want people to remember me that I'm fighting the port. I want to remember me that I am part of this station. I'm very glad that I'm part of this. I'm glad that we're a team here with you. I'm really thankful that you have invited me to be here this early in the morning, especially when it was my celebration weekend for my birthday and the hour got shortened. But bottom line is, I've had a great time here with you this morning.
Right on. Yeah, I definitely, I knew you were, I had, gleaned little bits and pieces that you were, more a part of the community than just being on this station, having your 1 hour show. But it's just amazing that I had no idea you were on that port thing. And
like I said,
with the methanol plant.
One of the dreams that I had, or have still, and it's still possible, is that when I get like a really old man and I want to have my grandkids, and I want to have my grandkids to enjoy, Ruston Point as I do. Yeah. I want them to see clear water. I want them to see whales. I want to go I'm not saying maybe eat the salmon right out of the sound, but at least there's salmon, you know. So to me, that's very important, you know. 7 generations, you know. I mean, hopefully that society will work hard on, as a society here in Tacoma, to kind of work towards that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I get very politically involved too. I figure that's it's kind of a goal right now to do a few things, but I'm not going to announce it here. But you know, it's in the works.
Right on, right on. All right. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you very much for helping to.
I'm excited.
Thank you very much for helping to keep Commencement Bay clean, because I'm looking at getting a kayak and kayaking out there in Commencement Bay.
I got a few buddies that I want to
Puget
meet.
Sound.
Yeah. So, but yeah, well, let's do it. Let's go. Actually, you know what? I want to join you one of your walks or runs out there one of these days.
Right on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that'll definitely be cool.
All right.
We'll have to do that. All right. And to all the viewers, thank you for joining in this morning and joining us for another episode, or this week's episode of Positive Vibes. And Jose and I are just here making positivity and gratitude louder in a podcast world. And glad we could, be here to bring you the show this morning. And with that, I'll leave you by just telling you just to stay kind, optimistic, and grateful, and have a phenomenal week. Until next time, I'm out.